listening to ASOTU CON Sessions by Effectv, live from ASOTU CON 2023.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of ASOTU CON Sessions presented by Effectv. And we had a chance to catch up with Dr. Nicole Lipkin, which is CEO of Equilibria Leadership. And obviously you had a great time on stage today with the opening keynote.
I did.
So first off, thanks for coming back again. It was so cool to officially meet you. I've seen everything you guys did last year. And obviously you had a chance to sit down with Alana Shabte last year too, which was great.
Yes.
So also, let's see, your son,
Charlie,
is he 5?
He's 4.5.
He's 4.5, okay.
Yeah.
When does he turn 5?
March.
Okay.
March. I'm like, when does he turn 5?
I have a 3-year-old that turns 4 next month.
Oh, so you're really knee deep into it too. It's real fun, isn't it? Real fun.
It always changes all the time, doesn't it?
It's so amazing.
Yeah. So like one of the cool things about the way you presented things this morning is there's really applicable key takeaways.
Yeah.
Not only like as a leader, but also as yourself, like in the experience, like you really need to understand your role.
Yeah, no, it applies to, we're human beings. It applies to us throughout all the aspects of our life. I mean, I've taught my husband this so we can have an even stronger relationship. And I know that autonomy is his big one. And for me, fairness is my big one. And like, so you can like, when you learn this about people, you can make sure, I mean, we are careful about tripping those things up or acknowledging it, you know?
Yeah.
It works all across the board. Yeah.
So like fairness and autonomy, like those, like sure they can overlap some, but I can see that there's a lot of that could be budding if you're not aware of it, right?
Well, of course. I mean, like in any, I mean, I'm going to be really stereotypical here, but I think in a lot of marriages.
It's the bell curve though, right? So it works for most people.
Yes. But in a lot of marriages, you have, you know, and this is very stereotypical right now, but women who complain of like having the brunt of, you know, home care, child care, and working.
Lifting. Exactly.
And men complain about like, stop telling me what to do, stop nagging, all of that. Like, but if you look stereotypically at relationships, this is a dynamic that plays out. But when you start to be aware of it, you can, you know, recognize, okay, I'm doing this to trip this up, or he or she is doing this to trip this up in me, and how can we resolve this better? Yeah,
and even creating, you know, effective leadership, there's a lot of guiding that's going on, and it's really also understanding your team and how they interact with each other, but also like the interpersonal relationships, just like you talked about. So you and your husband, the fact that you're able to really increase your relationship together and make it better overall.
We're able to fight better. We're able to communicate better. We're able to argue better. Like that's the goal of it.
But that's the whole point.
With leadership, I mean, I don't care if you are leading a Fortune 50 company or just leading yourself. This stuff applies. And the thing is, it's like we have to look at the impact we have on ourselves and the people around us. We have to be, you know, we have to look at our emotional footprint.
Yeah, that's
right. And we have to take responsibility for it and really look at how we're showing up and how we're impacting people. And, you know, I think one of the things, and I was talking to someone a little bit before, one of the things that really frustrates me, it's like we're done with the days of like calm, cool, collected, you know, in a box leadership. Like, give me a break. People want human. People want real. Like, it's about being a little bit vulnerable. It's about like being able to be like, I screwed up and have a conversation around it. You don't have to be always put together. In fact, it's super odd when other people around you are like flipping out or like look at COVID. I think this was really important.
And that was a big topic you had last year, is how that changed everything.
Is mental agility. Absolutely. But like, you know, I think, you know, during times of stress, and we're all living in a time, we've been living in stress way before COVID, now all of it. I don't know why I'm yelling so much, but I am.
You're that passionate, that's why.
It's like, it's weird to me because, you know, during that time, the reality is showing a little bit of vulnerability actually helps other people feel like it's okay to be vulnerable.
Exactly.
But when someone is just so calm, cool, and collected and like everything is tied up so tight, it can make people feel weird, like something's wrong with them if they're feeling a certain way. And that's why I think these, you know, these basic needs, these core emotional concerns that we were talking about today, if we can just start there, and obviously I just scratched the surface. Like, we only had...
You only had 45 minutes, come on.
Yeah, we didn't have time. So just scratch the surface, but like, man, when we can learn to work with these and we can apply these in our day in and day out and learn to like work on our own defensiveness around them, magic really does happen.
Sure. And just like you said, the fact that you can have an open conversation with someone about the fact that like you screwed up as opposed to like feeling so put together about everything.
Yes.
And I mean, so it's really cool anytime that we can have someone like yourself that isn't in automotive retail all the time.
Yeah.
That can come in and like tell us where we screw up all the time. Which like it's perfect because you have GMs, GSMs who have been in automotive for decades that are still doing it, and they are still managing and leading like it's 1984.
Well, one of my philosophies at my company at Equilibria Leadership is we are industry and size agnostic for a reason.
Sure.
If I only worked in one industry for my entire life, I would be biased.
Sure.
I wouldn't be able to.
But in a way, don't you work in one industry? The people industry?
I work in the people industry, but that's across the world, across the board.
Sure.
But it allows me to be unbiased. And I think this is where we have blind spots when we're working. Like, we have professional liabilities. When you're working in the same job in the same industry over and over, your professional liabilities that you don't see outside of it.
Yeah.
Or you don't
You get blinders on eventually, don't you?
You get blinders on. Absolutely. And I think that's why it's important to like have people that don't have blinders on.
Yeah.
To really come in and help diagnose and help move past. And, you know, like listening to some of the other things today, you know, it's interesting. Some of the most progressive companies that I worked with throughout COVID were the ones that did culture assessments. And what that is, it's looking at a company qualitatively and quantitatively.
Sure.
And allowing us to come in and talk to everyone and get people to open up and co-create collaboratively with everyone in the company a blueprint going forward.
Sure.
The reason why that is so effective is because when we're day in and day out working in the same industry, same business, all of that, sleep, eat, and bleed it, you start to make assumptions about what the issues are. You start to make assumptions about what the problems are. You start to make assumptions of why people leave.
Sure.
Or you start to make assumptions of why you can't attract people and blame it on things like generation or young people or this or that or people
but
only
it's all
want
excuses,
money.
Right?
It's excuses. What we have to actually do, just like with these core emotional concerns, we actually have to step back, take our defenses down, and really start figuring out what are the people needing and wanting, not what I assume.
Sure.
And how can we work on this together? That's what works.
Yeah. And there's a ton of legacy dealers out there, legacy operators that they're doing the same thing over and over again, but they're not going through and trying that vulnerability so that they can really understand what people need. Right. Because to be vulnerable, they have to say, we're not doing things the right way right now to the highest degree that we could be doing.
And that sucks.
It does.
It sucks to, like, what has worked for you always all of a sudden not working as much. It sucks. And it sucks to have to take a look in the mirror and be like, all right, let me really look at it. Let me stop making these assumptions. Let me really get down and diagnose what's going on. And sometimes that diagnosis, a lot of times, points to the leadership team, the middle management, because a lot of times we tolerate behaviors.
The person in the mirror.
Yep. And we tolerate behaviors from other managers just because we're so busy and we need those people and we need the institutional knowledge and all of that stuff. But the minute you start tolerating mediocre, you become mediocre.
Yeah.
You know, or the minute you start tolerating SH blank T, you become SH blank T, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So again, there's stuff that we can do, but it is a little painful. It is a little.
Of course.
It's painful.
I think it's painful when you realize if you're a manager, you're a leader, and you're a true mentor trying to make not only business better, but you're trying to make the lives of your employees better, even outside of what you're doing within the business. I think that that's hard because it's saying that you don't know what to do and you don't have all the right answers, and you have to try and figure that out together, especially like cultural assessments, because that will figure out where you're at right now, and it will tell you the true components of every aspect of what your team is and what they really feel
and where they want to be. That's the part. You're right. Like I think and
it gives you the roadmap.
Exactly, and build that blueprint together. Because I think, when it comes to that kind of work, we're used to doing employee surveys, which, if I had my way,
Sure.
Can we just rip them all up and throw them out the window? Like they're still on paper, aren't they? They're not great. Like they're not designed to get at the heart of things.
Sure.
These kind of assessments are designed like the quantitative is the assessment piece, but the qualitative is getting people to open up and talk about it and buy into what a future could look like. Like that's the thing. It's like, here we are now. Here's what the future could look like. Yes.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Like, let's go do this all together.
And here's how you can move towards it together as a team.
That's the difference. That's what happens. And it's really beautiful. And I think when companies and teams and leaders start doing this together and doing this work, like that's where these core emotional concerns also start coming out and you start recognizing, like it's really, I could talk about this for hours.
Sure.
But it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible what can happen. And if I'm saying like, look, in a marriage, it can make a huge difference.
Well, yeah.
Of course in a team, of course in a diet, of course in leadership, it can make a difference.
Or as a parent too. It literally can change everything.
Forget about it. Forget about it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So obviously we had a packed house this morning for your opening keynote. Mm-hmm. What would be 3 key takeaways, or maybe even 1 or 2 for people that you want to be able to take home with them away from ASOTU Con this year?
From that?
From you specifically.
Okay. I think 1, it's like, if we could just drop, the feedback thing is important.
Yeah.
Okay, like that's number 1. Like if we can just figure out a way to stop getting so defensive and let our egos get in the way and just hear the feedback and care about it.
Yeah.
And I know I stress that. We are so bad at giving and receiving feedback. We're so like, there's a fragility around our egos that like, we're going to like, wait, let me explain. No. It's kind of like when you're parenting a toddler.
Sure.
And that toddler says, I want, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And you give them the peanut butter and jelly sandwich and then they scream, no, right? It's like there's no winning.
It's like my life.
It's like, because I know my life too. Constant no. But this analogy isn't working well, but bear with me. But it's kind of like, it's the same thing with getting feedback. It's like we're so quick to defend, but if we just hear people, these are other people's perceptions, and so much movement and personal development can happen. And don't we want to keep on evolving till we die?
Yeah.
So feedback is 1, and I think the same like with caring enough to give the feedback, we can learn to do that better. And the other takeaway I would say is like, again, it's that last thing I said. It's like once you learn how to work with human behavior, like you can't lose. It's a lot of times these initiatives and all these things we're doing are actually working against human behavior. Like humans are actually more simple. We're more simple than we think. We have feelings. I mean, we're complicated, but
sure.
like, there's basic needs that we want, like being appreciated, like having fair management practices. And I didn't get to talk about all the cultural things and leadership things that we can do to help these.
Yeah.
But we want to be appreciated. We want to feel part of things. Like these are basic things. They're not that complicated. But we have to like kind of hear what we do well and hear what we don't to be able to evolve. Yeah.
So Dr. Lipkin, like the 2 things that really stuck out to me right there was the appreciation aspect.
Yeah.
And then also feeling like you're a part of the team.
Yeah.
Because once you fix those 2 problems, especially with like on a team, interpersonal relationships, like I'm not going to say that fixes everything, but that gets you pretty far.
It can get you pretty far, but I do have to say it has to be done sincerely. Like the people.
Authenticity, yeah.
And I hate that word.
What's a better word than authenticity?
There is no better word. I hate that word, but there's no better word. But that's the reality. Like one of the things that's really important is like when you're faking it to check off a checkbox.
Sure.
We are really good at picking up each other's stuff.
You mean like when I say sorry to my wife just to say I'm sorry?
Mm-hmm. She's very good at picking that up.
She can pick up on that.
We can pick up on this stuff. So if you can't do it for real, it's almost better not to do it and just acknowledge it.
Sure.
And then go on the side and go get your executive coaching to get better at it. Because the reality is when we feign this stuff, it can do more damage.
Sure. Well, Dr. Lipkin, thank you for taking a few
Yeah.
minutes out of your busy day. Like, it's
Thank
awesome to
you.
hear from you at your opening keynote. It's awesome to spend some time with
Yeah.
you. And people can check you out at Equilibria Leadership. correct?
EquilibriaLeadership.com
Great.
or LinkedIn. It's Dr. Nicole Lipkin.
That's great. So, Dr. Lipkin, thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining us.
Thank you.